Good evening. I'm home now from WBCs and I'm exhausted. I'm starting to really feel my age, but had a good day. Good, and of course, as I mentioned before, I did some shopping. And let's start off with something that came for free. Rio Grande Games was there, and they were giving away a free board game to every attendee. Now, things were pretty picked over by the time I got there, and people were complaining, oh, all they have are train games. Well, I happen to like trains. I also like ice cream. Doesn't mean I'm senile yet, but it is what it is. So I got a free game of railroads in France and Germany. Thank you, nice people at Rio Grande Games. So, after registering and getting my my day pass, you can see here, very old picture with my pin from Origin Sport College up here. Went down to the exhibit hall, which is actually separate from the main gaming area. It's like a level below, and you got to go outside and go into a smaller room. But it's nice, it's cozy. There weren't a lot of people in there, basically, not a lot of vendors, but they're friends of mine, and it was very productive. The first ones that I ran into were at Flying Pig Games. Mark Walker, one of my oldest wargame friends, and his daughter, Denver Gatewood, were running the booth. And I did some shopping there, of course, with being friends of mine. One of the things I really wanted and I got was 85, a tactical level game of combat in Afghanistan during the Soviet War, as opposed to the one that the United States ran. So, yeah, it's a tactical game on an interesting conflict with a combatant that's no longer there, namely the Soviet Union, and thank God they're dead. I also got his game, The Long Road, which is the Third World War, but dark. Not only do you have NATO and Warsaw Pact fighting, but bad things come into the theater of war, starting with vampires and werewolves, or as Mark calls them, lycans. Interesting idea. Now, when we were on a war game designers panel at Origins in June, he did talk about it, and I said something like, oh, do you have aliens coming in? And he said, no, we do better than that. We have the undead, we've got vampires, we've got lycans, werewolves. And when I asked about drones, he said, well, the vampires were immortal and they're pretty advanced, then they might have them. So, yeah, it's an interesting idea. Leave it to Mark to come up with something really, really inventive. And The Long Road is an example. It also has an expansion kit that I got called Broken Logic, which has all kinds of mechs and things like that, and expands into World War III in 1985, with having the kind of mechs that you would see in something like Pacific Rim. So, fun. Definitely. And I'm really glad to see the sense of humor and inventiveness, as well as war game rigor and good design in it. And like I said, I've known Mark for a very long time, even when he was active duty in the Navy, when he was a lieutenant commander in the EOD community. And we used to play games over the phone, believe it or not, when long distance wasn't free yet. And So he and I go way back. And Denver is taking over day-to-day management of his company, leaving Mark just to have fun with stuff, which is cool. And for buying 85, I got the 85 mouse pad. One nice thing about this, so I need another one, is that people don't seem to have cool mouse pads anymore. They used to be as common as dirt. Now it's a matter of don't use a mouse pad that, since we have optical mice, they're not necessary. I still think they are. I still use one, so this will get some use. Another subsequent stop was at the Dietz Foundation. Jim Dietz runs what is probably the only nonprofit wargame company out there. And his work is supposed to be educational, and he publishes the Littoral Commander series designed by Sebastian Bay. It's getting to be very popular, not just in the American military, but overseas. Most of the coverage I've seen on LinkedIn has been about officers playing it, but now it's getting into ROTC classes. So I asked about the second edition of the Indo-Pacific installment, which I covered in an earlier video. In fact, it was my first unboxing video. Now, I couldn't get an update kit, but for about the same price, you could get the full second edition. Yay! So that's pretty cool. And this is a system I'd like to get into. It's reputed to be rather simple, but it bridges the gap between hobby amateur gamers, and I don't pretend to be anything more than that, and also the professional wargame community in universities, in the military. And it is taking on in foreign countries as well, not just ours. So this is a game system that is getting a lot of traction in all the right places. So I'm getting pretty interested in it. He had some other games there too. And I noticed this one, Gallipoli, which is a game on the infamous botched campaign in the Straits leading up to Constantinople in World War I, in which the British basically threw thousands of British, Commonwealth, and some French troops into the breach and didn't get anywhere. And the subtitle, Order to Die, comes from a quote from the Turkish general Mustafa Kemal, later became Ataturk and the founder of modern secular Turkey. Someone whose legacy I respect in this age of Islamist outrages and terrorism. A lot of times I think, what would Ataturk do? Well, when he made his reputation commanding at Gallipoli, he famously told his troops, now this may be apocryphal, but it's credited to him, "Men, I am not ordering you to attack. I am ordering you to die." That it was one of those determined defenses, if you want to use a wargame term. And it does reflect the bloody nature of the battle. And it was incredibly costly on both sides. And I would say that the only thing that ever went well here for the British Commonwealth was the evacuation. They basically got everyone off the beaches and onto ships sailing away with no casualties. That was the only thing that went right, which is a really, really bad sign for any campaign. So, at this point, I was getting really tired. And I was hauling all these games. None of these are air boxes, by the way. And all the stuff from Flying Pig, they're heavy. So I took this stuff up to the car and stashed it in the trunk. And fortunately, I've been able to get a parking space basically by the front door, which is very unusual for me at WBCs. So I went back in with an empty giant game bag and did some more shopping. And I should note something else that was free. This was a gift from Jim Dietz. It's a challenge coin for the Littoral Commander series. And challenge coins are big in the military. You see them behind President Trump in the Oval Office. So thank you, Jim. I almost missed that. So I went back in and talked to more of my friends, including those at Worthington Games. And they have a really interesting idea now on trying to get full-size war games into smaller packages. We're used to the big to the big bookcase boxes like the ones that I showed you from Flying Pig. And what they're doing is shrinking them into tiny little boxes, which is something that Avalanche tried a long time ago with their Verdun game and 2 games on the Eastern Front by my friend Bill Sarajevo. But Compass is really running with this. And I picked up 3 of them. Now these are full-size games in tiny little boxes. This one is a solitaire game, 1862 War in Virginia on the Peninsular Campaign. I also got Operation Anvil Dragoon, designed by Dan Forey, on the invasion of southern France after D-Day. Sometimes neglected campaign, but one that was very important, especially for logistical reasons. And if you go to my line of departure article page, you'll find an article that I wrote on the Brittany campaign. This was the alternative to Brittany. This is what replaced the lost, never taken, port capacity in Brittany to sustain the Allies in northwestern Europe. But there aren't a whole ton of games on it. Well, Dan designed this one. So we've got at least one full-size game crammed in a little tiny box. Then we have Battles of the Mexican-American War, which is Monterey and Buena Vista. 2 really interesting battles. Monterey was urban combat, something that we don't see a lot in the 19th century. The only other game that I have that covers it is one of the game's scenario. I don't call it scenarios because it's too big, but one of the games inside the late Richard Berg's great Battles of the American Civil War series, Gringo, on Mexican war battles. And there is a Battle of Monterey game in there, as well as one on Buena Vista. And each one of those games that he did could have been published as a separate title in its own right. Well, this one certainly is. We've got 2 battles in here. And that's something I look forward to playing and also covering in the video channel and in the pages of Line of Departure. Let's see what else I have here. That could be pretty cool. Looking at my big box, my big bag I mean, we had the Standard Combat Series game from Multiman Publications, MMP, Rostov 41, Eastern Front Fun and Games. And as always, I'm interested in their work. And it is as a system originally done by the late Dean Essig. I'm really getting sick of the fact that so many of my friends and colleagues in wargaming now precede their names with the late. It's getting to be unfortunate. Maybe you reach this age when all your friends and relatives end up going to the other side. But it's not fun. But knowing that Dean designed this game, or designed the game system. The actual game designer is Ray Weiss. But I've played this system before, and it's very accessible and a lot of fun. So, yeah, and I'm interested in Eastern Front stuff. So, Rostov 41 grabbed my attention and my credit card. Now, this is the last one they had, White Dog Games, and this goes back like 10 years. Banned in Argentina, supposedly. Las Malvinas son Argentinas. Mrs. Thatcher's War. The Falklands War of 1982. This is one I remember following when it happened, because I graduated from college, undergraduate, in December 1982 at Duquesne. And funny story, I was in a British history class at the time, and Dr. Hunter, the professor, was a real Anglophile. She was also very interested in military history. She had 2 cats named Wellington and Blucher, and she spent a whole hour and a half on Waterloo, so she was cool. If she wasn't a war gamer, she should have been. Well, right after the Argentines invaded the Falklands and occupied South Georgia, she came into class in the morning mad as hell about what had they done, and that Argentina was going to pay for this. Now, there were a lot of people in the class. I think most of them, their ancestry was Italian, but they had family connections in Argentina, which is common. There are a lot of Italians who immigrated there, including the family of the previous Pope, Francis, and they weren't happy. The Argentine sympathizers in the class were not real thrilled that their professor was so pro-British. But she labeled the Argentine army a giant shit operation, which I think in the long run definitely applied to their idiot generals, even if their soldiers were sometimes extremely brave. But that's my big memory from 1982 and the Falklands War. And there will be discord. So this was one I wanted to pick up. I was glad to see it. It's mine now. Now, for sentimental family reasons as well as general interest, this is one I had to get. It's Fortress Games, 20th Air Force. Interested in air power in the Pacific, of course, and having my second master's in military history on World War II. This is why you see so many World War II games on my shelves. But also, too, there's a family connection here. My Uncle Lou was a lead bombardier and navigator on B-29s over Japan, and my late dad was a tail gunner. Uncle Lou flew out of Saipan, Dad flew off of Guam. And so there's a family connection here with the bombing of Japan. It's a solitaire game, and it's one that I'm really happy to see, and now I'm really happy to have in my grubby little hands. There's other stuff that I got too, and one is the company that just started, that sold me 20th Air Force, is called Wharf Rat Games. So I got their t-shirt. I also got one for Lisa. She will be very happy being able to go out in the street with a shirt that alludes to wargaming and has a giant rat on it. And it's sure to start conversations with the right people. Now, they were selling shirts and hats at the registration desk, of course, and of course, got the hat. This is a new thing this year, I think, but looks pretty cool. It might even look better on me than my Desert Camo Steeler hat. Now, they were running short on shirts today. They had sold out all the large and extra large, and I usually wear an extra large. So the only thing I could really get for Lisa and me, she always wants a shirt from the conventions, was the gray shirt for this year, and it's a 2X. Now, Lisa is a lot smaller than a 2X. I told her she could wear it when she sleeps, which is very probable, because she's small enough that be like Omar the tent maker designed her sleepwear. For me, in a way, I don't mind. 2X, I can go out in the street and people I know will say, "Have you lost weight?" And I can pretend that I did. I can pretend I'm getting healthy, that I've been putting my mind to self-improvement, and I've lost weight. Then when I die, they'll probably be very shocked to see me laying in the coffin. And, God, he really was fat. So, in the meantime, I can pretend to be losing with a 2XL shirt. So it was a fun day at the convention. Saw friends, met new friends, talked about the business, talked about the hobby, spent a whole boatload of money. And I got to admit, though, I think it was all an investment. And just had a blast as usual. Not really anything bad I can say about it. I think that the convention people would probably agree with me that they should have had more shirts in the most popular sizes. Seven Springs again did a good job. I think that they seem to keep the vendors and the participants happy better than some of the other conventions for which I've heard horror stories from a business perspective. But it was good. It was good for me. I definitely had as much fun as I ever do, and I'm glad I went. Now, with all that in mind, thank you for the last 22 minutes of your life. And please like the video if you do like it. Share it with your friends and not just the Wargamers. These are two things that keep the channel going. And the other thing that really, really helps is to subscribe. There'll be more videos, more wargaming, more history, more military history, and possibly some other stuff that I have fun with. But those are the things that tend to be the most popular. But you know what was the least popular video I've done so far? It was a big thank you to Mike Tomlin for resigning as coach of the Steelers in the classy way he did it. Nobody saw that. I thought there'd be more football fans out there. I thought there'd be more Steeler fans. Well, maybe you're getting your sports stuff from Barstool and ESPN or somebody else, but yeah, I thought it was cool. Anyway, the channel's going to cover stuff that I'm interested in. Of course, wargaming is really pretty close to the top of the list. The history stuff, the professor stuff, the political science stuff, that stuff I'm interested in, and it's also part of my job as an online professor. So, once again, thank you for your time, and please smash that subscribe button. It's not going to cost you anything, it's just going to help the channel. And thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.